just when you thought it was safe to go onto iTunes. This is Next Level Guy, the only website that makes self-development as fun as going to the movies. It's time to take the red pill and escape the Matrix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Next Level Guy Show podcast with your host, Ian Dawson-Mackay. Today's guest is Joe DeSena. He's the CEO and co-founder of the Death Race and the Spartan Races, which are a series of obstacle races of varying distances and difficulty ranging from 3 miles to marathon distances. They include multiple challenges including fire jumps, barbed wire, monkey bars and so much more. Joe is also the author of Spartan Up, a Take No Prisoner's Guide to Overcoming and Achieving Peak Performance in Life. In this episode, we discuss why you need to take part in a race and the benefits of taking part, why you need to learn to be uncomfortable again, and how you can use obstacles in the race to overcome the obstacles in your own life. But first, a quick word about affiliates. Next Level Guy has some amazing deals with some awesome companies. To see the exclusive listener deals, discount codes, and special offers, simply go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. That's www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. I'd highly recommend you pick up a copy of The Natural by RSD Max to help with your dating, Tools of Titans from Tim Ferriss to help bolster your mind, and Alpha Brain from Onnit.com to boost your memory and focus. If you want to build muscle and learn to be great in the gym, you also should check out The Lifting Lyceum. That's by Greg Nichols and Omar Usuf. You'll find all the links on the page and so much more. But now to the interview with Joe. Enjoy. For anybody that's living under a stone and doesn't know what a Spartan race is, can you tell me who you are and what a Spartan race is?
Yeah, so Spartan Race is basically a military-inspired obstacle course event where you're going to climb, crawl, jump, swim, and basically act like a human being again. You're going to sweat, you're going to breathe heavy, reconnect with the earth. Might be muddy, might not, but it's much bigger than that. It's a lifestyle, it's a mindset. It's been around since ancient times, where you are willing to push through and get through the tough times, have a different frame of reference. So when things go bad, you say to yourself, it's not so bad. It's about eating healthy, closer to a plant-based diet, less processed foods. It's about training with body weight. It's about going out in the bad weather. It's a lifestyle and a mindset.
I grew up in the Highlands, and it's something I love is getting out, being physical, and you actually feel like a real man again. Can you go into why you think modern day men self-medicate with drink and drugs and things like that? Is it we've forgotten how to be physical?
I think there's one main reason, and that is stress, which comes from all directions. The body was wired to deal with in a physical response. So, in other words, all of a sudden, it's cold and you start shivering. The lion shows up in the jungle and you start running or you attack it. And today, in the modern world, we've got all these different stresses coming at us in the office, at home, and we don't have a physical response. In other words, it's not a lion when the kid's screaming or you're stuck in traffic. There's nowhere you can go to respond to that physically, right? So what do? We drink, we overeat, we do things that are unhealthy, which, by the way, is a negative downward spiral because it brings on more stress, which makes you it's a negative feedback loop, right? Which makes you do more of those negative things, which brings more stress, and it's hard to break that. So you really got to face it head on and attack it with, sorry to say it to the audience, but with lots of exercise, with cold showers, with all the things that we would normally experience out in the wilderness.
So what do you think makes a good man? How can somebody know if they're being masculine and being like a true version of what you would consider, like one of these prototype male? Well, how would you define masculinity? What kind of characteristics would a man need to show for you to say that's a good example of man?
Well, you want resilience. right? You bounce back. You want integrity, right? You want, hard work. Those are the big discipline, integrity, hard work, resilience. You got it covered.
And what do you think of things like team games, like rugby, American football, or should we be undertaking like physical activities, like you mentioned, that are more, single person, like mixed martial arts, and how can we get to this level of physical challenges again? So, if somebody's sitting on a couch and not done any exercise for ages.
You got to do them both. You got to do team-based things. You got to help others. Empathy is powerful, right? So, yeah, you got to get out there alone. You got to deal with yourself. They say adversity introduces a man or woman to themselves. You got to face some adversity alone. You got to face it with team members. You got to face it with people you don't know. We no longer live in a world where we have rites of passage, where we're struggling physically, right? We live in a bubble, and the simplest things, ridiculous things upset us. As I said, you don't have that physical response to stress, so we gotta manufacture adversity in our lives. If that makes sense.
How is that something that you felt was missing when you created the races, or how did you manufacture your own version of adversity when you were younger?
100%. It is missing in our lives, and I ran a construction and swimming pool cleaning business for over 10 years, and there was nothing like shoveling sand all day or being I had lots of stresses because I was running a business, but boy, I got a chance to physically react to those stresses and carry bricks and sweat and be out there in the heat. It was awesome. And when I got to Wall Street and I sat on a trading desk, I got hit with all those same stresses, but I didn't have that physical response. So when I started racing and doing Bikram yoga and getting healthy, I thought, man, we got to get the whole first world doing this, because it is exactly what's missing, to your point.
That's a great answer. And do you think we've forgotten how to be men? Have modern day men, are they weaker or poorer than, say, our grandfather's generation?
Oh, come on, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Like not even a contest, of course. And listen, every generation gets softer. Every generation has a new bubble that moves down the chart towards weaker and less resilient, and in the first world anyway, and we've got to break out of that. So every movie we love to watch. Look at the big blockbuster movies, right? Rocky Balboa, like he's breaking the mold of how we currently live, up against all odds. But just go through your mind, any great character in a book, any great movie, we aspire to be what our grandfathers and great-grandfathers were.
I mean, is there anybody in particular that you would look to as a role model for your own aspirations of manhood and masculinity?
Shackleton.
So what is it about Shackleton that, what draws you to him?
Well, first off, he goes directly into the cold and the darkness and the rough seas. But secondly, he never loses his cool, doesn't lose a man, right? 2 years stuck in the ice and keeps the team together. That is powerful, and that's not by accident. That's trained and honed and all the skills and characteristics we've talked about here, right? That's that resiliency, that integrity, that hard work, discipline, and applied not only individually but to the group. Those are character traits that we should all aspire to have.
And what's if you do you see warning signs in somebody's life? Is it that they're starting to feel depressed, they're drinking heavier and more? What do you think are the reasons most people start undertaking your races? Is there a kind of a standard reason they give on the forms when they sign up?
I think people are stuck in their current lives, right? And they're in a cubicle or whatever they're doing in life, and they're not necessarily happy. And so I think Spartan provides that buoy in the water that they could attach to and redefine themselves. I mean, we got tens of thousands of tattoos out there because they want to be part of this tribe that stands for good, strong things, characteristics, like everything we talked about. And so I don't know if that answers the question, but I think people are jumping onto this Spartan boat because it's like-minded individuals, it's community-driven, it's healthy, it's all the things they're missing in their life.
Somebody listening to this just now who really wants to give this a shot, what pieces of advice would you give to guys to start getting cold and uncomfortable and, wanting to overcome obstacles and achieve goals again?
Throw out the couch, turn off the TV, start doing burpees first thing in the morning, cut out the coffee and the soda and the processed foods. Now that all sounds extreme. You don't have to do that day one, but you need to start making changes in your life. You have to get uncomfortable, and most people, none of us want to be uncomfortable, but that's where the magic happens. So if you don't normally take the stairs, take the stairs. If you don't normally walk and you take a taxi, walk. If you normally have 3 cups of coffee, go down to 1. If you smoke cigarettes, throw them away. Right? Just we're in these negative feedback loops where we get these cues, each day, and we do the same things over and over. And listen, you want the definition of insanity? It's doing the same things and expecting different results. So you want great results? Go out in the cold weather. Go out in bad weather. It's raining outside. Go for a run. You'll feel alive.
I grew up helping with the lambing with the sheep, and going out racing up hills and sprinting and helping move stock and carrying equipment, and it was the only time I felt truly alive. Now I sit in a cubicle in an office and it beats away at you. I mean, for somebody listening who's really interested in the race, what should they think about? How should they start training for one?
How do you start training for one? You walk a mile a day if you have to, or you run 3 miles, or you do whatever you have to do. You climb stairs, you do pull-ups, you do burpees, you do different things than what you currently do. You got to have some upper body strength, you got to have some stamina, et cetera, et cetera.
So could you give somebody listening an idea of what would a race, like a typical Spartan race, involve? What kind of challenges would they face?
If you're going to get out there, the challenges you're going to face are mostly mental, right? That ability to make that commitment is the hardest choice. And then once you make the commitment, you got to take that first step in that 1,000-mile journey. And it's going to suck, right? It's going to take everything you could muster up physically and mentally. And you're going to want to quit. And somehow you push through. And when you come out the other side, you are a transformed person, and the whole process along the way probably got you to lose some weight. You're probably very scared. We got a race coming up in Tokyo this weekend, and we got moms here that are just nervous wrecks. They are so afraid to come out. Meanwhile, my 8-year-old daughter's doing it. So it's really a mental. It's really overcoming that mental blockage more than anything.
So there's obviously the correlation between overcoming the obstacles in the race to overcoming them in somebody's life. So how can somebody use those skills, instead of just thinking it as a fun day out, how can they, like you said, use the mental boost and the, learning the challenges, how can they use that to better their own lives?
How could they use the overcoming the mental what they gain from that in life?
So how?
Well, everything that's going to go wrong does go wrong, right? Money leaves you when you need it most. Your best friend lets you down. Your wife walks away. I mean, everything that can go wrong does go wrong in life, and those are just obstacles. And so, if you could become proficient at dealing with obstacles and build something we call obstacle immunity, you're going to crush life. You're not going to get upset at the small stuff anymore. You're going to bounce back from the big stuff. And so these obstacles are just metaphors for life. By the way, every time you hear a beep, that's just another obstacle coming my way.
I like it. And what do you see a particular type of person that you see best suited to a race like this?
a human being. We are all able and capable to do this. Another obstacle just came. Doesn't stop.
Oh, yeah.
we were all able and capable of dealing with these obstacles in the race, and we're all able and capable of dealing with them in life. It's not whether or not the obstacles are going to come. It's how we react to them. And we are wired to deal with this stuff. I mean, look, in the old days, we just wanted the sun to come up. We just wanted to not get eaten by a lion, right? We wanted to make it across whatever country we lived in on horse and carriage without a wheel breaking and grandma dying, right? So, come on. We are wired to do this stuff, but we learned a little helplessness in our current bubble lives that we have. And what I'm suggesting is let's unlearn that helplessness.
So how can somebody do that? How can they get mentally tougher? And, how can we stop this life of easy culture? Is it just getting out and doing stuff, or is it accepting our responsibilities in life?
I think you got to accept responsibility, and I think, yes, you just got to get out and do it. I think you got to do the uncomfortable.
And is that why we have generations of young kids getting in trouble? Do you think fathers aren't giving that portrayal of strong manhood and masculinity to their sons?
Well, I don't want to put it all on the dads. I think it's the mom and the dad. Another obstacle. The mom and the dad are both at fault here. I'm trying my best to give my kids a resilient environment that hones these skills, but instinctually as a parent, even for me, right, we want to give our kids a comfortable a day every day, but that's actually the wrong thing. I mean, every other animal in the animal kingdom nudges the animal out into the wild to prepare them for when the parent's no longer with them. We don't do that. We coddle them. I know my kid really should probably go to sleepaway camp, or in some rugged location for the summer, but I want to be with them. So it's selfish. It's selfish on my part, and I'm sure and I'm tough on them. And I'm sure that's the issue. Moms and dads are very coddling and protective.
So what advice would you give to, say, like a new dad or somebody who's wanting to connect their child, to give them a boost in life? How could they stop being a bit more, release them into the wild, so to speak?
When the choice is between hard or easy, always go hard. Always go hard. Wake them up early, make them sweat early. Give them tough challenges, give them jobs at young ages, make them come up with their own money. You always go hard. Now, people around you are going to think you're nuts, but I got a friend. I got a great story for you. We'll end it with a great story. How's that?
Sounds good.
I got a friend whose dad was ex-Green Beret and would push the kids every night after dinner to go down the basement and wrestle blindfolded. And the two brothers. And the idea was if they could wrestle blindfolded in the dark, that they would become great wrestlers in the light. A little extreme. The mom was very upset. The neighbors were calling social services. This went on for over a decade. Kids became Olympic-level wrestlers. Now, they didn't earn medals, but they were that good. One of the two brothers became the coach at Stanford University in wrestling. While he was the coach at Stanford, he instituted a new policy where he had neighborhood kids come wrestle with his students at Stanford. One of the neighborhood kids one night said to the coach, "Hey, coach, I got nowhere to sleep tonight. Could I sleep on the mat?" Coach said, "Don't be ridiculous. You could stay on my couch." 2 a.m., this kid, who was a neighborhood kid who was sleeping on the coach's couch, remember, the coach was one of the two brothers growing up in the basement in the dark, opens the bedroom door 2 a.m., has a gun, and is about to enact a random act of violence and is going to shoot the coach. Strips the coach down to his underwear, zip ties him to a chair, blindfolds him with a pillowcase over his head, duct tapes it, and presses the revolver to his head. The coach is obviously beside himself, and the only thing he can come up with is, "Hey, can you shut the lights before you pull the trigger?" And for whatever reason, the perpetrator accepts his request and shuts the lights. Well, the coach proceeds to beat the blank out of this guy, disarms him with his head blindfolded while tied to a chair in his underwear, pins him on the ground, and calls 911 from behind his back. Stanford police break down the door, and they walk into a scene that looks like it's Pulp Fiction. There's a guy on the floor. There's blood everywhere. There's somebody tied to a chair. He's got a pillowcase over his head. They don't even know who the bad guy is and who the good guy is. They call the dad, and they said, hey, we gotta hand it to you. We've been to car accidents, we've been to motorcycle crashes, we've never seen anything like what your son did to this guy while tied to a chair. Kudos to you. So obviously a very extreme example for those fathers out there listening and those men out there listening. But the point is, life is going to knock us down, and we better prepare our kids to deal with it.
Yeah, because there's always going to be something bad. It's how you deal with it. That shows the mark of a man. Can you go into a little bit about your book? I know you've written a great book. If somebody's listened to this and you've definitely got some new fans from this, why should somebody pick up a copy? What will they get from it?
From a copy of the book, they will get hopefully a supercharged attitude and go attack life. That's what we're hoping.
And do you believe in things like meditation, gratitude, journal writing? Is this newfangled stuff, or is this something that that we really should start dealing? How do you deal with your father? You run a business, you compete, etc. How do you manage to juggle it all? How can we recover, and how can we look at being better men in that way?
I think you got to do the hard things. You got to put yourself. You got to manufacture some adversity, like we said on this, right? We've got to set up some characteristics that we want to obtain. I say to people, look, you got to make sure your values and your beliefs line up. So if you believe that you want to be the best dad ever, the best family person, the best mountain climber, whatever it is, well, then make sure on a daily basis you line things up so that you achieve those goals. So in other words, if you want to be a super healthy person, but you think it's okay to drink on Friday nights and smoke a cigarette or two, well then your actions are not lined up with the goals you're trying to achieve, right? So you should write down what the things are in life that you really value, and then make sure you act in a manner that hits those targets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. And what are you most proud of in your life?
Kids.
And if you could, I call the site The Next Level Guy, because I look at it as always try to find the next level of whatever you're doing in your life to be better and better. What do you think makes you a next level guy? What makes you better on something than somebody else?
Just work harder.
It's just
not as smart. Just work harder.
Just a sort of grit and determination. Well, what would you want people listening to this interview to take from it? What's the go-away message that you want them to remember?
The go-away message would be, do the hard stuff.
And I cannot thank you enough. I know we're really pushed for time, but I really would like to thank you for taking this, because I know that this isn't something that you normally would do. Can you just tell people how they can keep in touch with you, look for future product? How can somebody look into doing a race and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so you can go to Spartan.com to check everything out about the races and so forth. You could email me at joe@Spartan.com if you got any questions. I got an enormous amount of emails. You heard those bleeps coming in, those obstacles. Yeah, we got a couple of books out there you could look up. We've got the podcast. And then maybe you're in, where are you, in the UK?
Yeah, we're in Glasgow, UK.
We've got an event coming up in August in Skye, Isle of Skye. And if you've got listeners out there that want to come out and just see it and get inspired and transformed, they can be guests of mine. So feel free. You could look it up. It's called Agoge, Agoge.
No, thank you enough, Joe.
That's it for another week. Thanks for listening. Absorb it, practice it, use it. Until next time, keep trying to hit that next level in your life.